Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Ross, host of this event, part of the Great Canadian Aftermarket Trade Show. Today, on this live Zoom session, it is my pleasure to have two shop-owning couples in to talk about their experience, which is all 100% of the time positive, right, folks?
Yes. Sure.
Right. We have Sean and Cindy Abyss from Sean's Auto, and the other one is the other shop.
Shawnee
The
Station
Lotto Company.
Automotive.
There we go. And Lori and Jeff Joyce from Shawnee Station, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we've both had communications in the past, and everybody has different roles as they come about. I'm going to start with Lori and Jeff because I remember talking to you prior, and give me a little bit of the background of how you got involved in the shop business and how Lori became involved in the shop business. What kind of what she brings to the party here.
So I started originally in 2000 as a minute muffler, and I changed to a Napa Auto Pro in 2018. And the transition was basically because of Lori's experience with corporate. She had spent better part of her career running multiple 7-Eleven stores. One day in 2017, she walks into the shop and just happens to mention how much shortage I have. And I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? What do you mean shortage? Oh, you're losing on parts, you're losing on labor, you're getting time stolen from your technicians. A short conversation after that, she asked me, and why aren't you a Napa? And I said, what do you know about Napa? She goes, I know the name. So anyways, that opened up me poaching her from 7-Eleven. So she started with me 5 years ago. And ever since she started running the shop, we've just started climbing. A whole different environment. I can't say enough about having corporate experience and bringing it into a small shop. It just changes the whole atmosphere. Her specialty is building teams, building people. I work on cars, she works on people. So from that point on, we really haven't looked back. I went from buying myself a job to actually running a business. She runs the business. I just kind of work in the background, and I use 99% of her ideas. There have been no bad results. The no fear with running people is probably the strongest point I can say she has. She has no fear.
Great. We'll dig into that. We'll dig into that in a bit, and I'll talk to you more, Lori, for sure. Murray has just popped in. Hello, Murray. Thanks for
Hi,
joining
everyone.
us. And we'll get to you in a minute. But
No problem.
I want to talk to Cindy and Sean a little bit. Now, when you hear what kind of Lori and Jeff are their experience and how Lori, became involved, kind of got poached into the business. How does that compare to where you guys are at and how you work together with the businesses?
I would say it's very similar, yet a little different. I started like a lot of people being a mechanic and opening a shop. So we did for a few years of just one-man show kind of thing. That was back when the kids were little. So Cindy was around to help out, but she was busy with our family. As we got busy, started to get an apprentice and another employee as the years went on, and the kids got older. She started helping out more in the shop. At first, it was just office work, just a little bit of bookkeeping, and then I very slowly gave her more work, and without ever asking or ever planning it. And it just slowly evolved to where we have a whole bunch of employees, and she does really, there's nothing she can't do. She, does all the service advising role. She's and her strong suit is similar, is with the people, my employees. She's very good with customers, very good with people as well, and dealing with employees. So now we're a lot busier, and I'm not needed. So
Well, yes, the irrelevance for all of the guys on the call today, I think, will be reinforced the more we get into this, for sure. I am wearing a shirt that my wife bought me because Lord knows I do not shop for myself. And it's Friday, so this is a Friday shirt. But Cindy, just very quickly now, when Sean started to talk to you about, doing this and doing that, did you realize that he kind of put you in a pot of water and was gradually going to be turning up the heat over the years?
Honestly, I didn't realize it until suddenly one day I was like, how am I doing everything? Like, he delegated everything to me. Which, honestly, I don't mind. I absolutely love it now. So yeah, I've learned a lot over the years. Mm-hmm.
Did you find that you were a little apprehensive about your kind of capabilities to do some of this stuff, and that you had to have a few conversations about, like, you can do this, don't worry, Sean and Cindy?
Yeah, definitely. In the beginning, I was like, I know nothing about vehicles at all. He says, oh, you don't need to. And I never believed him. And I was a bit shy at first about talking to customers. And then I realized it's just about the customers. If you just inform them proper, then they work with you, and then they gain respect for you after a while. So I gained confidence that way.
Right. Now, Laura, you came in to the shop business. I'm sure that, you'd heard Jeff talk about the business before you actually got involved and really put your mind to it. You came in with a bunch of experience already in dealing with at least business and people and,
Yes, business.
Operation.
Same as Cindy, though, nothing about automotive. I knew how to sell coffee and hot dogs, customer service. I didn't have a clue about brakes and exhaust and nothing. So I was a little bit afraid as well, going into it. I went to Murray's class, and Murray actually gave me quite a bit of confidence. Learning the business is kind of the same way as a retail store to me in my head. I just had to learn that we were selling time. It didn't really matter about the parts for in my head, as long as the technician said, okay, we need this filter, we need this. Okay, I did it, but I had to understand what we were actually selling. And when I went to Murray's class, I understood automotive a whole lot better in my business sense, learning about the time and what we were actually doing for the customers.
Right, being able to take your existing experience and learning how that applied to the automotive service business, and maybe some things that did more closely align and some things that didn't. I mean, obviously, you mentioned about time. I don't think that on the retail side, it's not really about you're not really selling time. You're selling coffee, and as you said, coffee and snacks and whatnot.
Right.
So Murray, again, thank you for joining, and I have to give props to Murray for helping to gather our group together too. So full on credit there, Murray. How often do you find that you have I'll say the significant others? I mean, coming into your classes and saying, my husband or my guy, he wants me to do this. I don't really feel comfortable with it. And, all I have is 10 years of experience in corporate business or whatever.
Just really quickly, have you heard from Tim and Alex?
I have not, no.
Okay, so maybe after I make my statement, I'll quickly text them and see how they're doing. Well, it's actually quite funny. In most cases, the significant other, the spouse, female spouse, shows up in training or in coaching, usually in the training first, because that's kind of like the gateway to it all. I don't always know what triggers would be a good question to do my research, what triggers them to show up there. But what most commonly happens is, if the two of them they're together, it's actually quite funny. They'll look at their husband and go, see, I told you. and or they'll go, Or if they're by themselves, you'll see the look on their faces like, what the hell? And they go back and they kick the guy's ass. Like, I've actually had a couple of husbands say, would this be good for my wife? And I said, are you ready to get your ass kicked? Because it's gonna be. Because the thing, women are about safety, security, fiscal responsibility. They're protective of the nest egg, of the nest, of the kids, and the rest of it. And when they see that the guy's got a hobby, or he's so busy fixing cars that he doesn't realize he sells time, because men are this one-minded, I've got to go fix the water pump, as opposed to this bigger picture. I'm stereotyping a bit. That's the most common thing that happens, is the men then get dragged by the ear to the class, and then we go, and then we rock and roll.
Does that ring true, Sean?
Well, I think for us, we were the people that were in the class at the same time, and kind of going back and forth.
I don't remember any significant sparks, but I do remember lots of looks back and forth, and Cindy writing copious notes. That I do remember. And we had a lot of fun.
And asking
Well, I'm just seeing here, for those folks who are just listening, I'm watching Jeff point at Lori about the notes and the things, and probably a few looks here and there. What I'm going to ask the guys here, when Cindy or Lori came back from training, or they're starting to get some experience, starting to see things in the business. How did you react when it was like, hey, Sean, why aren't we doing this? Or, hey, Jeff, what, I've noticed that this, did it take a minute for you to realize that, you were being kind of put on the spot or justifying why you're doing things, or was it all very kind of loving and partnership?
You want to go first, Sean?
Oh yeah. Why don't you go first,
You
Jeff?
go first.
Headbutting, lots of headbutting. Stubborn. I think I thought like a technician. It was a challenge. The first year, especially. I have not taken Murray's SMART course, which I have to, and I know I'm there. I am part of his other groups. Lori, not only did she have that behind her, but she had ample training as well from the 7-Eleven side. I had to kind of let go of the reins, and as an owner, because it was tough to step back from trying to run the whole show by myself to understand delegation.
But he was trying to run the show without any structure. And that was my frustration. Well, how are you running it?
Yes. And when she started, I think the big eye opener was I had a technician, Mr. Wonderful, we'll call him, and he was my downfall. He basically ran over me and told me how things were going to go. And when the employee binder came out, which I never had, which come from the structure side, and things started getting noted and written down, and my problem got worked out of the business, it was a huge eye opener, because that was a 17-year problem that had to go away in order for me to be successful. And I just had no way out. I wasn't a strong enough leader back then to make decisions. I was a technician. My goal was to fix the water pump. Let's get this water pump. That's what pays the bills. And that was my mindset. It was actually a really tough challenge. Looking to where we are now, we still butt heads a tiny bit with little things, but I always lose. And I'm not too proud to admit that. Like I had to open my mind to what's reality. And the reality is it's more than just fixing a car. This is about running a business, and business is people. I wasn't very good with people. I was too soft. I am no longer soft. I'm still kind. I'm just not soft. And it took Lori's experience to show me that. It basically boiled down to how to get people to respect you as an owner, and how to gain the trust of your employees. And it's something I never was able to do up until I had a true partner, and she brought that to the table. And it's something I'll be thankful for the rest of my life. It changed my entire life.
Well, that's very positive. Hopefully Lori agrees, and she's not. Oh, he's still being such a jerk to me sometimes.
No, 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 no.
But let me ask Sean and Cindy now. The way your kind of partnership in the business evolved was sounds a little more organic and a little bit more a piece at a time, but it's been happening for a while. How is it divided now? How is it sort of evolved to division of duties? Is it all back shop for you, Sean, and all front office for Cindy, or is it somewhere else?
Oh, it used to be more like that, where I was more in the shop and she was more on the counter. But now that we're a bit bigger, I've been trying to consciously. I have enough people. I shouldn't be in the shop. So I'm actually a little in flux as to where I belong to some degree. But with the other shop, there's more stuff that we need to do. So when we first started, it was very much the shop was ran in my head, right? Very much. And it was when we joined Auto Pro and started to look into training, that's when a lot of things changed for us with the course and the groups as well. Murray's RPM training. For us, I think we agreed a lot with the changes that needed to happen. It's just the implementation that is a bit bumpier, right? We were very much in agreement in the courses and things that we were learning and the direction we had to go. How to get there is a little.
What were the kind of obstacles? Just the difficulty in having to maybe deal with some people or some changes in the way things are done in the shop, and worried about the response to that, or what were the big?
More everything was in Sean's head. He had to learn to communicate. So that took a while. He's getting better at it.
Right. I mean, it sounds like Lori and Jeff that if you were butting heads, it's because you were definitely sharing your ideas. I don't know you well, Lori, but I don't think that you hold back on your communication very much. Is that a fair statement?
That is very fair. My frustration with Jeff was he wanted to give everything for free. Everything for free in the parking lot, and he was just that good old soul that just felt sorry for everybody. And I thought, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to start charging people? So I had to get him away from the counter. Like, I really did.
That's very interesting. So I know we've talked before. It sounds like you deal with the people, Lori and Jeff. You mentioned you spend still most of your kind of brain power on the actual repair process, and is that kind of a fair assessment of how you divide things up?
Jeff deals with people too, but he's better in the shuttle. He'd shuttle them home, like get them on the shuttles and the valets, and maybe talk to them on the side of the bay, maybe instead of just the price.
That all sounds like a lightly veiled methodology to get Jeff as far away from the shop as possible, possibly. I'm being a little unfair, but
yeah, I don't book appointments. I don't take any personal cell phone appointments from friends, family, anybody.
Because they stay in his head,
Yeah.
Kind of like what Cindy said.
Exactly what Cindy said. I have to get everything out of my head. I learned my weaknesses first, and I stepped away from my weaknesses. Number one, I do not do work orders. I do not give a rough price ever. Somebody could ask me and I could even know the answer. I do not give prices to anybody, including my father. If he says, how much for an oil change? Phone the front. They'll tell you. I have to step away from that part of it. I figured out I can talk to people. I can sell a job. I just know it in my head too well. And if I know it takes me 10 minutes and we're billing an hour, I'm like, oh, I'll do it for half an hour. I stopped doing that because people are paying for my experience.
Your skill.
And my skill. And I've got different skill sets and I specialize in certain things. I went from being that guy that was like, oh yeah, I'll do it for $100. I'm $225 an hour if you want me to personally touch something, period. She put a value to what I do. I do the technical with the guys. I keep organization in the back. I keep my inventory and stock revolving. I let her deal with scheduling vacations for the guys, dealing with the customers, dealing with the accounts. We pretty much divided it. She does what she does best. I do what I do best. But we had to start where my weaknesses were, because when you do it for so long, you undervalue yourself. So the easiest way to put it is she gave me what my worth is. And it really changed my approach to business.
Right. Now, Murray, I mean, these are some of the things that I'm hearing from Jeff that were really pressed home by Lori. Are things that we've talked about as being kind of issues that a lot of shop owners have when they get kind of less disciplined about just their whole process and charging. Right? Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think both Cindy and Sean and Lori and Jeff have both come a long ways with understanding the value of what they do and their time, and billing correctly and charging correctly. And I think Sean's probably alluded to a couple of the bumps in the road with implementation. Is I'm thinking we were referencing, Sean, a bit of fear that we might lose a customer because of price change, or a little bit of that, being in a bit of a smaller community and stuff. And so that is really a common theme. And of course, everybody's different. These two couples are, there's some similarities, but there's lots of differences. But I'm going to say, Sean and Cindy, you guys did raise rates. You did start charging a bit better for your parts margins and charging for materials and consumables. And I have a brand new client who's extremely nervous about making these changes. And I said, look, Sean and Cindy did this, and they actually grew from $1 million in sales to 1.5 million in sales in the time frame of actually increasing the stuff they were charging, right? So I always talk to people that your customers, your clients, for the most part, are not going to notice increases like up to 10%, because they still perceive value in your transparency, in your honesty, the quality of the work, the relationships that you build, right, with that part of it. But one thing I wanted to circle back to, a little bit different from your question, Andrew, is watching the couples that I work with really work on their strengths and figuring that out. Cindy has talked about, how do I grow my leadership skills with the people, right? So that's a topic that's a favorite of hers. John being maybe a bit more reserved than Cindy, but John's about improving, systems, but he's also working at his ability with the employees, right? Jeff and John, you guys share a similarity in that softness with your people, right? Like, you want everybody to be happy. And so then the accountability levels aren't always there. So I'm watching this growth happen, and I'm watching you guys sort out your roles now, because I brought you systems and processes. It's kind of making you go, okay, who's going to do what now, right? Like I'm watching them sort that out, and sometimes the lines are blurred and whatever. But it's really encouraging. I think that's one of the things, if any other couples listening to this, is when you actually know what you're working on, and you see the systems and you see that there's a structure of how this works, then you can say, okay, I'm going to take that piece, I'm going to take that piece. And even if there's bumps in the road where, oh man, I don't know if we can do that because of some kind of resistance, right? We call it an emotional bank account in our groups, right? We're letting our emotions rule as opposed to the processes rule. But all of a sudden I see it opens conversations. Now the couples can talk about their roles. And, with Cindy doing both bookkeeping and advising, Sean came to this realization that she's got too much on her plate. So guess what they've had the last while? They have another service advisor, right? So that piece go. And with Lori and Jeff, as they sorted things out in their roles, and things got sort of rolling along, Lori began to feel like she wasn't quite needed as much anymore because the systems were doing things. So I said, yeah, but you're still the CEO. And so now Lori is the CEO of that company, and Jeff's 100% good with it because of that dynamic that she needed to place herself in that role as the CEO. And, obviously the two of them talked about it, and Jeff's 100% fine with that, because I do feel, even with all teams, even with couples, in context, I'm not talking about in the home or in their own relationship as a couple, but in a business context, I think there has to be some definition of the roles, right? And then having conversations about it. Because as you guys grow in a business, the two of you, you're gonna have more employees, and you guys want more time to get away. Right? Like Cindy and Scott love to travel. So you have to build the flexibility. And then you guys are still so young, all of you, but you're going to want to sell your shop one day. And I've just lost 3 clients in fall because they stole their shop, but they were able to sell their shop because they didn't physically have to be present in the building from day to day. Did they do some book work? Did they check in? Did they coach? Of course they did. One of them lived at a lake near me, 4 hours away from his shop. Right. So that is a place where you guys can get to. And what I love about what I do with you guys is yeah, money is a part of it, profitability is a part, but the flexibility you guys can have in your life. Now you can choose, right? Now you can choose what you want to do, both in your roles and you know, in your personal lives, like with travel, vacation, whatever your interests are. So anyways, I got off topic there a little bit.
That's okay, but you actually did segue inadvertently into kind of something that I wanted to cover a little bit, because we've talked all about your lives in the shop, and yet I know that it can be, you know, if you've had a challenging day, you know, whether you're maybe having a little disagreement or about shop issues, or even not, just a tough day, you know, where it's you know, bad customer situations, and everybody has those days. And so I'm going to go with first with Lori and Jeff. I mean, how do you make sure that you bring it home, but that you don't live it at home if you've had the bad days? Because, you know, a lot of folks, they come home and they're able to kind of vent to their partner and kind of release that way. But if you're both living the same, you know, tough period, it's a bit different, right?
Want to tackle that?
Well, we've always made that rule right from the get-go. From the very moment I started collecting a paycheck from Jeff, I said, I am not bringing work home. If we do this, I'm not bringing work home. So we made the rule from the very, very beginning that what happens at work stays at work. So if we want to discuss something that happened at work about a bad day, we stay later at work and we discuss it at work. It doesn't come home. If we are at home and we get onto a topic about work at home, we drive to the shop and we go and discuss it at work. We're 3 minutes from the shop.
Okay.
That's what we do.
That's far.
That's very smart. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't know. Now, I know for those folks who don't know Sean, is anybody not know Sean? Sean is you know, a pretty active guy out you know, on social and LinkedIn and whatnot. I think so. Some folks might know him, but you know, he said to me some time ago, before the pandemic, or right outside of the pandemic, that, you know, he doesn't know what he's going to do if he can't travel. Travel is super important for he and Cindy. They couldn't, you know, get on a plane for a long time. So they got on a bus that they drove and spent a lot of time together there too. Now, you know, that now becomes kind of a 24/7 thing, right? But how do you handle it? I mean, are you all sort of all good with it, and or do you have that hard line like Lori and Jeff do?
Actually, yeah, we're a little different in that, like, for us, the traveling is easy. We get along great. Like, there's no issues there. We do talk about work at home
A lot.
but it's not an issue for us. It's we kind of have the opposite problem where home problems creep into work is more of a problem. Like if we're having issues, that just throws everything all to hell.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite problem. We can deal with work stuff and we can talk about it. The only thing I used to find a couple of years ago is we're around each other a lot more than we are now. And we never had anything to talk about because we were always together, right? So, there wasn't any news of the day because we both lived it together. Right. I kind of like now with the second shop that we're not there a lot, but Cindy was there yesterday. And it's kind of nice to be able to talk about stuff where we used to not, how was your day? What happened? This or that happened. So that's
right. No, that makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah.
If you're, I know that, through the pandemic with so many people working remotely and in other industries, and and whereas prior they were both going off to their separate offices, it's now, well, how was your day? And it's like, well, you know how my day was,
You were,
because
It's
you were
funny.
8 feet from me.
It's funny. My employees, they can tell when we're not getting along.
mom and dad are fighting.
Mom
That's
and
what-
dad are fighting again. It's not that bad. We just ignore each other for the day, and then it gets all better.
Oh, that's not bad. I mean, you do what you have to do, but that's kind of fun. I did promise Murray that I wouldn't turn this into a marriage counseling 101, but I might break that promise. Not that I'm any expert at it, ask my first wife. But it is interesting that you do need to find some room for both, right? For your personal lives, and I hear everybody has their own kind of way of splitting it up, but it's super important for both your. I mean, if you succeed in the business, but you hate your life, then that's no good for anybody, and vice versa, right? I mean.
Right.
I know a lot of businesses that have succeeded where the marriages have not. I don't know a lot of businesses or marriages that have succeeded where the business has not also, because that's that can really put a stress on everything, right? If the business is doing poorly and people are stressed about money, and if people aren't listening, and then that's obviously the worst case scenario that thankfully we don't have here. We have exactly the opposite, but different ways of kind of approaching it, right, folks?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something else,
Now,
Andrew,
yeah,
sorry, Andrew.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Murray. I appreciate that.
I was just going to make a broader statement of observations over the 17 years I've been coaching and training and working with shops and couples. It's a heartbreaking thing to me when the technician opens a shop, doesn't understand business. It's anywhere from being a hobby to a charity automotive, to giving it away to a passion for cars and not quite understanding. And the spouse is supporting the family with her job. So she's a professional, she's a nurse, a lawyer, or she has a retail business of her own, or she has a full-time job. And then so she's juggling that while the husband's not being a jerk about it, but he's just naive, right? He thought he was going to have this great thing, and years go by, and there's just no more money, and they keep having to plow more money into it. That is a relatively common occurrence. I mean, I sat beside a senior Air Canada flight attendant who was dead-heading home. Well, this is a couple of years ago now, and her husband had this little 2-base job, and she supported the family as a flight attendant, right? And I said, "Here's my business card." Never actually heard from them, but so that's a part that I'd like to bring to the industry is when I get the couple to see what's possible in that job, and get the guy, because usually it's the guy that owns the business, initially anyways, to understand it, then their lives get better. He creates income and wealth for the family. The pressure is less on her. And in some cases, she keeps doing her career. My wife and I we get along. We love traveling together, but we're both firstborns. We're both bossy as all get out. We have never really worked well together, but we've loved consulting with each other's jobs, like over the years, right? So how was your day with her business when she checked in with me, right? And I used to joke about the best way to keep a long marriage was to become a trainer and be on the road half the year, right? That's because we both are very independent. Just for full disclosure with everybody, we have a little bit of a different relationship in the sense that she will do her own vacation, or I will do my own vacations. Not every year, but sometimes we will do that. We both have some separate interests, but yet we love doing travel and stuff together, right? But anyways, what I was going to say is, and then in some cases, when the business really grows, then the woman says, "You know what? I don't mind this, and I have these strengths to bring to it." Whether it's corporate stuff like Lori, like for example, Kim and Alex couldn't make it, but Kim was with Amex for, I don't know, I think 10, 15 years, right? So she brings that corporate sort of some HR stuff, some, that kind of stuff. And then they get involved in the business. Sometimes it's the bookkeeping, sometimes it's on the service counter, sometimes taking over whatever their natural gifts or what their past job. So I know a woman she was a former nurse and she now runs the job. And because of the shortage of technicians currently, her husband has had to go back in the bays while they're looking for somebody, right? So there's that flexibility that comes when the two of them can join. So, and sometimes she keeps her job and her profession, but at least now the business is not dragging the family down. So that, back to my comment about, bringing choices, bringing flexibility, so that the couple can be whichever choice they want to be, right? Whether they're involved or not, right? So yeah.
Right. Let me ask both of our couples today. I'll start with Lori and Sean, but I'll ask the same question with Cindy and Sean, and ask the same question with Lori and Jeff. But do you find that because everybody individually and personally has they have good days and bad days, and is it helpful to have that person to kind of, I don't know, support you and remind you the good stuff because they actually know exactly what it is you're talking about that made it a bad day, as opposed to somebody who just doesn't understand kind of why today was a bad day and why it got so under your skin that this thing went wrong? Cindy and Sean?
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
I actually have a greater appreciation for how hard Sean has worked over the years. I was kind of grumpy about it when I was raising the kids, because he worked so many hours to build the business. But now I understand why he came home grumpy a lot and tired. So I have a greater appreciation for that. And now we can connect that way because we understand each other. Mm-hmm.
Right. How about Lori and Jeff? Because I mean, my understanding, and from a previous conversation, Jeff, is that you had your business. Lori was doing her corporate responsibilities and her corporate career. That it was maybe going okay, but not where it should have been, and you were probably wearing some of that all the way home, right?
Well, a little bit of a backstory. Lori and I got married in 2018. We started dating in 2014. Both of us went through pretty brutal divorces, but our story is a little bit different because I'd already been doing what I was doing and she was doing what she was doing. So when we got together, I got some insight I'd never been given. So most important, I got support. I never had support before. I did everything myself. When she came in, and I kind of said we butted heads, but it's more like I didn't get enough communication out of my head, kind of like Sean said. Everything was in his head. I was doing the same thing, but just listening to what we're all talking about today, the one thing that I can say about being couples, I don't get enough time with her, believe it or not. Even though we work together, we're so busy doing what we do in the business. When we get home, like, we don't even watch TV. We sit, we have a sitting room. We sit there and have conversations all the time. We're going away at the end of the month. We're looking forward to it, that we get to spend 7 days in a trailer together, that just her and I doing what we want. Even though we do work together, I don't get as much time with her as I would like. It does keep us really close. The whole couples work together. Like, I hear people say, oh, we take separate vacations. I could never do that. I want to be with her as much as I can. I find working together, we're different people. It's like we turn a switch. We're work people and we're home. We're totally different people at work. I can be very stern with her at work, and vice versa. At home, we're completely different people. It's that ability to flick that switch when we get home. I think that makes us a really strong couple in business, and appreciation for each other's abilities. I cannot say enough about what she has brought to my business. I could talk for hours and hours of all the little changes. It's mind blowing when you have an outside perspective. And I think the strongest thing is she doesn't know anything about fixing cars. Thank God, because if she did, it would just be brutal with both of us having that knowledge in our head, having that ability to see it as a business.
And a balance.
It is so important. And once again, like I said, I could praise her all day long about what she's brought, and she wouldn't believe me. I'll tell you that right now. Ask Murray.
Well, from my side of it, if Jeff wasn't at the shop, I'm lost without him. It's it's so sad without Jeff at the shop. And there's been the days, you know, where he hasn't been to the shop and it's just been me and I'm lost. I'm just lost without him. So even though we don't see each other much, to me, I still, well, where's my lunch date? I don't have my lunch date. And oh, I don't get to see him today. It just felt like he was sick or he was dead or it was horrible. It was horrible without him, honestly, because we're with each other 24/7. We really are. If I have to do yard work, he's doing yard work with me. If we're walking the dog, we're walking the dog together. Everything is done together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She's talking about I had to go on a 6-hour road trip to pick up an engine. And when I got back, everybody they were sending me pictures of her.
I
She's
was so
standing
sad.
by my toolbox, pouting, waiting for me to come back. It was pretty enduring.
It just doesn't feel right when we don't go to work together. It feels awful. We drive to work together. We drive home together. So it's weird when I drive to work without him.
Which having this puppy, it's changed our schedule. So
Just for those on this, both Lori and Jeff did advise me before we went live that if one or the other had to get up, because they have a 3-month-old puppy that is probably gnawing on somebody's ankle right about now.
He's outside.
As they are prone to do. But now you're stuck in the house with you and a pup. So
Yes.
you know, good luck with that. But yeah, so I mean, I guess everybody has their own equation that they need to balance out on this. People are different. Individuals are different. They're kind of entry point into the business with each other and themselves is different. But it certainly sounds like the commonality here is that even maybe a little bit of rough patch, kind of getting used to this idea, but being able to share information and just being kind of open to. It's kind of funny. You can love each other but not like each other, and I think you really need to like each other to be in business like this. Does that sound right?
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. I couldn't imagine not having if we didn't have this bond and we tried to do this, it'd be ugly. Like the frustrations was just running a business by itself, let alone with your partner. Like if you guys aren't on the same page, it's going to go sideways. And I think communication, and that's where we struggled in the beginning, was I thought I was just being a nice guy, but I was trying to do everything and not let people know what I was doing. And it was backfiring every time I turned around, because it's in my head, oh, I'll just do this. And they turn around and go, well, who did that? Well, I did it, thinking I was doing a good thing. Well, you just messed up because that wasn't the plan. So having the communication and understanding who you're working with makes a world of difference. And it was a big eye opener for me by having that support, that partner. It changed my life. Honestly, if we went back 5 years, or let's go back 10 years, I bought a job. I was there 16 hours a day. I had no life. I worked, and I never got ahead. And it was because I thought I was doing everything right. I had to humble down and let people do their job. And the only way I came to that conclusion is I had to have Lori literally sit me down one day and go, you need to stop doing what you're doing. Just stop. Like, don't do this anymore. You've got to start understanding your role.
At one time, my office was Jeff's bedroom.
Yeah, I had a couch and I slept at the shop because I'd be there till midnight. I'll just sleep there. It was bad. It was bad. I let the business run me. I didn't run the business. And by getting that outside input, and I'll always remember the day she said, why aren't you in Napa? And I'm like, what do you know about Napa? I know the name. that whole corporate attitude, and it was mind-blowing, just mind-blowing that she had a view.
Yeah. So Murray, it occurred, have you ever had either couples or individually but working together coming through one of your training courses or any of your other industry groups, or you've looked at the couple or talked to them individually and thought to yourself, I don't think these people should be working on this business together because they don't have any of these core kind of bonds that I'm hearing from our couples today?
Good question, but I would say I don't have a memory of that. Um, as a couple working, I think I have memories of individuals in the couple completely unwilling to make the changes, and the spouse on either side sort of just going along with it. So it wasn't sort of between, well, I guess ultimately it was between the two of them, but I was never privy to that part of it because the person's personality was fairly strong, and that they made the decision. And this is gender neutral. I mean, sometimes it was the woman and sometimes it was the man, right? So it was a similar thing that I have with many shop owners when they first meet me. Oh, you can't do that in my town. I can't do that in my shop. My customers won't pay for that. Are you crazy, Murray? That you're insane. You're going to make me go broke if you try to make me implement that. You want to see my numbers? You actually want me to look at my books? You want me to share my numbers with my peers? Are you insane? Right? So I get this resistance from people. And then if they happen to be part of the couple, then that's sort of a bit of a dynamic. So I never thought of it the way you had that question, but I can think of one man that wouldn't let go, and get it out of his head, and she just sort of was there to support. And now that I think about it, in a couple of those scenarios, I think she just gave up and went and got her own job.
Right.
All right. And in another scenario, one woman was so private with the numbers because her father had told you never show anybody, not even the bank. You don't show anybody anything because somebody's going to screw you over if they know your numbers. And so I literally had to fire them as clients because I cannot help you. I cannot, if I can't see, and we can talk about what's happening or anecdotes of what was happening, but it says, until you show me the numbers, and I don't actually even care about the sales. I mean, these guys in the room know we're looking at things like ratios, sold hours per work order and productivity and these kind of numbers. And it's, some of these guys are used to it now, but I mean, when somebody's new to me, it scares them how much I can tell about their shop and never having been there. I can say this happened here and this happened here. Like, how do you know that? It's because I screwed up and I've worked with hundreds of people that did the same thing till they learned better, right? And so then Steve would not show numbers. And I said, sorry, guys, you can't be part of this group because you're not giving us as a group any information to be masterminds together to give you any help, right? You can tell us all you want, how your sales are going up. I don't know what your margins are. I don't know what any of the other ratios are, so I can't help you, even though lovely people and trying hard to make a living and stuff. But he had that he was just locked down. And I've met 2 or 3 people in my career, male and female, where that advice was given to them somewhere. I even said, this is an old news report years ago. I said, back when Eaton's went broke, there was a news report that said if Eaton's would have shown their books to a few management consultants, they might still be around. Because it was a privately held company, right? They just kept everything inside. Yep. They didn't get advice from anyone, right? Anyway, so that's kind of my answer to that, Andrew, is it's sort of a human feature, not a couple feature. And it just happens to be that it's one or the other, where they just resist a new paradigm of thinking. So
sure.
Can I add something to that?
Of course.
Sure.
So working with Murray, he's such a gracious trainer, because when it came to numbers and stuff, I'm not a numbers person, that he's the strong suit, but Murray just kind of guided me along. It's not so scary. And it's really encouraged me and helped me grow as a person. So I appreciate Murray.
Thank you. Well, and that's the thing, is I happen to love numbers and analysis. I just to be, again, full disclosure, I hate accounting and bookkeeping, so don't hire me to do that. I have people that do that for me, right? And you guys, but I love the results. And again, Cindy, learned when I started coaching and I saw the resistance of so many people of not understanding, like they literally same as you, like, I don't get this, I don't understand this, I'm not interested. That's, I think, where I came at it from that angle, is I learned years ago that you have to be patient and kind and approach it that way. And then people are actually engaged in it. And also, for Cindy and everybody else, only use enough numbers that work for you. Once you know the ones that work for you, that you want to track, that's great. Sean can drill down with the other 75 KPIs, right? He and I can nerd out on numbers. But Cindy's got the 4 that she needs to run the business, right? With
Right.
that, I love that difference in people as well. So yeah.
Right, right. I guess, I know we're coming, to the end of our time on the session, but I guess I'm going to ask our couples today to kind of speak to, others who are at some stage of getting involved with their significant other in the business, and to say, like, if there's are there ways that you could offer that will help smooth that kind of transition to one partner or the other being in the business, and is there one or two kind of rules of thumb that you think are the most important? I'll start with Cindy and Sean.
You can start.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any really good rules, because as we can see, the two of us are somewhat similar situations, but we approach things differently. I think the biggest thing, just thinking about it, that I appreciate is the ability that, since nobody is good in everything, what's helpful is that she's good at things that I'm not good at. And I think that's the biggest benefit to the business. And it's also good in that it's good for customers because they get to know us. I think for both of our businesses, that's the main thing we have to keep, right? So yeah, maybe, yeah.
Personally, I have learned my worth and what I can do. And I think Sean's really pushed me into that. And now it's like, I'm unstoppable. And who am I some days? So that's, yeah, just go for it. Even if it scares you, it's just do it. You'll appreciate it later.
Right. Now, how about you, Lori and Jeff? Are there a couple of things that we talked about? I think there's a lot of lessons to take from kind of where you started and where you're at now. But if there's another couple out there that is maybe just starting to kind of get together in the business, what's your advice?
I would say I'd probably focus on hiring a coach like Murray. The one thing I can say is being a couple, just because we have ideas doesn't mean they're right. If you have direction, it's easier for you both to be traveling in the same direction. You got to start somewhere, and you can't be afraid to make moves. And matter of fact, I think the biggest success we've had as a couple is scaring ourselves, pushing ourselves to do things we're uncomfortable doing, and you can't do it alone. Like I can't speak for everybody, but for myself and Lori, if we didn't have direction, I don't know how frustrating it would have been, because she had corporate background, I was an independent. We needed some sort of direction, and I think by having other people to talk to, first of all, which was really important, having other shop owners to talk to, and that's where some of the mastermind groups and stuff helped, and the one-on-one coaching, and the courses. You have to train yourself every day, and you can't stop. You can't plateau. If you plateau, you'll get bored and it won't go anywhere. You have to always push the envelope. And as a couple, if you're not doing that as a couple in business, it's going to be dormant, and then you're just going to be just another small independent shop that really nobody knows about. If you want to be successful and be a business that not just for yourselves, but that your community recognizes, you need direction. I think that would be my biggest thing.
If I could just add, I would say Jeff and I, no matter how stressful and no matter how frustrating it got, Jeff never let me give up, and I wouldn't let him give up. So when I was feeling down or Jeff was feeling down, we just gave each other confidence and just didn't allow us to give up. So I guess go for it and don't be afraid.
Yeah. What do you think, Murray? Is that pretty solid message to wrap up with?
Fantastic message to everybody, 100%. And I'd like to sort of, talking about taking risks, be brave, do it. And then Cindy said, know your worth. Know your worth, right? Within your relationship and then with your clientele and in your community. I think, Cindy, both the fear and the knowing your worth, I think knowing your worth helps you overcome the fear. So
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
The combination of you guys this is an amazing show. Holy Moses.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for both you couples, Cindy and Sean, and Lori and Jeff for giving us your time here. Great message about supporting each other, scaring yourselves a little bit, but being there to kind of catch each other when you're maybe a little overscared, and succeeding together. It's a wonderful thing, right? So thank you everybody for being here with us. Thank you all the folks who have been in attendance. All the best to everyone. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and we'll all be better for it. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.